Okay, so we are live. Kind of. In certain ways.
Well, we're not quite sure if the radio will be joining us.
1 minute until showtime.
Well,
That sounds better.
sounds better, yep.
Didn't sound too good there for a moment.
And yeah,
We survived.
we survived. We are still here to speak with you. If anybody tunes in tonight.
We have one person on.
No, that's not somebody. That's the little stars icon up in the corner.
Oh.
Yeah, it's okay.
We'll just sit here and talk and...
Yeah, we'll sit here, we'll talk,
People can catch it later.
we'll do our thing.
No, nope, that's still so sorry.
Oh, now there's somebody there.
Oh, yay!
Hello, somebody.
Yeah, whoever somebody is, but welcome.
I guess I could do the thing and actually earn this eggnog and look.
Oh, it's all good. But yeah, so good evening. We're giving our friends at the Vibe Radio Network just a minute to catch up with us here.
Yes.
As we are still in recovery mode.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
All right, so now we got everybody.
Woohoo!
We got everybody here, and I need to get the feed up here too.
Yeah, you do.
First thing, right off the top, happy birthday to Edgar and Pluto at the Poem Museum.
Yes.
Yay!
It is their 10th birthday. They are 10 years old today.
And handsome as ever.
Those handsome devils they are.
They're so cute. Go check them out on the Facebooks. They got some new treats that they were showing off.
Yep. So very, very excited for them. Happy birthday.
Yep.
And yeah, so November 7th.
Cheers.
Halloween.
Coming up.
Halloween was a week ago, though it feels like a month ago. It's yeah. I don't know words.
Yeah, we're still recovering.
Yeah. Yeah. So this might be a bit of a low-key episode tonight. I took forever to actually get this posted on Facebook, so I think people have only had a couple days to even realize that we were doing this tonight.
And he finished editing about 2 hours ago.
Yes. Yep. Editing just wrapped up, and let's just say it's not my finest effort.
Wasn't my finest effort on the first script.
But
Anyway.
it's been a week, and here we are with you. Happy to have whoever's here with us tuned in.
Yes, and we, of course, have been promising Haunted Salem for a while, so now we are going to produce Haunted Salem, and we have our favorite witch up there behind us, Ms. Elvira.
Yep. And we have Patrick with us tonight.
Hey, Patrick!
Hi,
What's up, Patrick?
Which was awesome to meet you back on the 30th. Glad you could come see us down at the market event.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That was definitely a fun evening.
Yes.
So, but yeah, gosh, it all feels so long ago. It's been a week. We didn't really slow down.
Mm-mm.
We had what, Tuesday night we did have off.
Tuesday night we had off.
But then we did a pub crawl Wednesday.
Tours Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yep.
And now we're doing this?
Yeah, and now we're doing this, and it's Monday, and yeah, kind of, sort of starting to get back into the swing of things. It's hard to believe that actually, well, no, a month from 2 days ago, actually, we'll be wrapping up our Haunts of Key West event.
Yep.
So we'll be still down there, or actually, are we flying back a month from today?
No, we're flying back on Wednesday.
The 8th. No, the 7th.
7th. It is the 7th.
Today's the 7th.
Yeah.
We fly back from Key West a month from today. So yeah, we're gonna be heading down there in just a few weeks for the Haunts of Key West event. Looking forward to that.
Yep. And we have a blood moon lunar eclipse tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why everything is weird with your dreams, just in case you were wondering.
If you're inclined to get up at the middle of the night to see said eclipse, because what is it, 4 a.m. you said?
4 a.m. in Virginia is going to be the best time to see it. Look west.
Yep.
Young friend.
Yep. So, trying to think, what else we got coming up? We're doing the tours.
Basically, it's just tours this month.
Yeah.
We
We got Comic-Con.
Yep.
We do have Comic-Con on the 19th.
Yep. So we'll be at Comic-Con on the 19th from 11 to 4 at the Richmond Raceway. And yeah, if you look up Virginia Comic-Con or Richmond Comic-Con, you should just go ahead, Google search it. It should come right up and be easy to find. And we're going to be there just kind of repping for the day. Have some Haunts of Richmond gear out for purchase, just in time for the holiday season.
Yep, and some jewelry. I gotta get going on making some more jewelry for that.
Yep.
There is a cosplay contest, so if there's any people who really like cosplay, definitely a place to go for that.
Mm-hmm. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But other than that, I think
We're chilling this month.
we're kind of chilling a little bit, which is needed.
Yes.
But yeah, so
Shall we dive in?
yeah, let's go ahead. Let's dive in. We got our haunted Salem to talk about tonight. So
Yep. So Salem, Massachusetts, of course, has an unshakable reputation as one of the most haunted cities in the world. Due to this history, Salem's become a popular destination spot for those who have an interest in the paranormal. Between the old graveyards, witch houses, abandoned churches that have been converted into museums, there is much to see when visiting, especially when you seek out and have run-ins with the paranormal and supernatural. So we're going to dive right in, and we're going to go to the Joshua Ward house. This one house has a spooky reputation that stands above most of the other establishments. It is a beautiful brick 3-story federal-style house located at 148 Washington Street. While the house is not open to the general public, it does not diminish the countless paranormal sightings that have occurred at this property. Given the property's past, it's easy to see why some of the spirits may be anchored here after so many years. Now, the house was built in 1784 by a wealthy sea merchant who, was called Joshua Ward. Once the house was finished, it became quite popular as it was one of the first houses in Salem to be constructed entirely out of bricks. The house was so celebrated that during a trip to Salem, George Washington not only toured the house, but asked if he could stay there. Because of this, a bust of George Washington can be found in the second floor window. Sounds like a perfectly delightful property, doesn't it? Well, just remember that the house might be delightful. Land, not so much. Because, well, there were some horrible crimes that occurred there many years before the house was built. Now, while the house was constructed, as I said, in 1784, the property has an older history dating back to the 1600s. The era that Salem is best remembered for with its involvement with the Salem witch trials. These trials had a serious impact not only on the town, but the entire country, and its effect can still be felt throughout the city today. While the Joshua Ward house was not involved in the trials that occurred nearly a century before this time, the property that he purchased was heavily involved. And the land that the house is built upon was once owned by another notable figure who had a significant role in these witch trials. They were, of course, an unforgettable time in the U.S.'s early history, and it all began in colonial Massachusetts the middle of the year of 1692, when a group of young girls claimed that they had been cursed by witches lurking within the community. The girls claimed that these witches caused them to be possessed by the devil himself, making them have convulsions, visions, and uncontrollably scream. With hindsight, most think that the bewitched girls were simply seeking attention, or perhaps looking for some sort of revenge on those that they identified as witches. That said, it's also interesting to note that in 1976, in an article in Science magazine, a noted study that sought to determine if there was anything that could be legitimately causing these girls to think that they were bewitched. The study found that they could have been suffering from exposure to fungus ergot. This plant disease, stay away from my eggnog. This plant disease is commonly found in grains such as rye and wheat, which were popular foods at this time period. What's more, and coming into contact with the fungus can actually cause delusions, convulsions, the same symptoms that were claimed to be shown by those who were bewitched. It's possible that the tragic events that transpired in Salem could have resulted because of diseased grain. That being said, given the scientific knowledge, or lack thereof, in the 1600s, people were led to believe that the symptoms exhibited by these young women was the result of witchcraft. The girls initially accused 3 women of witchcraft: Sarah Good, Sarah Osborne, and an enslaved woman, Tituba. While the first 2 women denied having any involvement with witchcraft, did I do?
What did I do?
There we go. I accidentally deleted part of the script.
Dun dun dun.
We're good. I fixed it. Anyway, Tituba actually openly claimed she was a witch, and she actually was working with other witches that were hiding in the community, and they had been working with her to cast spells on others. Naturally, this caused mass hysteria among the people of Salem. The settlers were determined to find all of the witches among them. However, there was no way of factually determining if somebody was actually a witch.
Ironically, it's probably one of the very few times in
Hearsay.
pre-Civil War colonies or United States that they took an enslaved person's statement at face value.
Yeah.
Because there's far too many instances of
that not being allowed.
But
by law, that's not allowed.
I digress.
Anyway, now, of course, a lot of this became trials of he said, she said scenario, essentially making any accused party automatically guilty. What's more, a large amount of the trial hearings were left to the local officials, and this gave some of them an inflated sense of power that they suddenly had this massive responsibility in preserving the safety of the community. One of these individuals who had a significant role in these trials was Mr. George Corwin, the man who previously owned the property where the Joshua Ward house now resides. George Corwin was one of the men who served as an town official charged with running the proceedings throughout the trials. It all started May 27th of 1692 when George was elected the High Sheriff of Salem at the age of 25. Most likely he got this because, well, his family was well connected. He had several uncles as well as his father-in-law, all serving as justices. They figured he could handle it at such a young age.
Sounds like the Richmond Sheriff's Office.
Okay, let's not go there. We're not digressing that way. Anyway.
Elections are tomorrow.
He doesn't get elected.
Well, elections are still tomorrow.
Yes.
So. Anyway, so when he was named the High Sheriff, the trials were already underway. Unfortunately, in time, George would play a large part not only in convicting those on trial, but also in facilitating their torture. He was tasked with transporting these women to the trial, arranging for their hanging if they were proven guilty, and let's just say he got a taste for it. He became increasingly gruesome with the tortures that he inflicted, and he enjoyed it. It said that he would even visit the houses of those who were recently executed to take all of their money and property for himself.
Sadly, not uncommon. Holy crap, I cannot talk.
Anyway, he was involved in all 19 of the deaths that came as a result of the trials. Now, given his role as High Sheriff.
Was that me?
Yes.
Sorry.
It was fair to assume that he had a hand in executing all of them as well. Let's just say he became a man that was feared and hated in the community. Now, it's somewhat surprising that Joshua Ward would actually choose to build his house with this history on the property, but it's probably safe to say that as time went by, people forgot this, and so thus he just saw a really great property for his future estate. In the centuries that have passed, the Ward House has undergone a few changes. For a brief period in the 19th century, it was converted into a hotel, but that was short-lived. In the 1970s, there was a plan to tear down the house and build a commercial building in its place. However, several historical preservation societies voiced their concern loudly and put an end to that plan.
Yes, they should.
Mm-hmm. Now the property stands as it was originally built and houses several businesses within it. Amidst the modern businesses residing in the building today, yes, I can talk, there seem to be unsettled spirits of generations that linger on, making themselves known to the current inhabitants of the house in rather unsettling ways. One of the spirits at the house, some have earned themselves nicknames, let's say, of their various means of manifestation. So the first one is the Strangler. With the identity of the strangler being uncertain, some believe that it's possibly George Corwin himself. The association between George and the strangler comes with the rumors that George would personally torture some of his accused in his home, sometimes strangling them to near death. While there's no definitive proof that this actually ever occurred, many are wary of going up to the second floor of the ward house because, well, let's just say there have been numerous accounts of people being choked by unseen hands in this portion of the building, leading them to believe that they have had an encounter with George himself. Sounds like a second story I will not be going in.
Yes, no, not for you.
Nope. So then there's the president that some will identify as Giles Corey. Now, Corey has the unfortunate distinction as being the only individual in American history, colonial, or the entire United States, to be sentenced to death by pressing. Yes, he literally had more weight added, until he couldn't breathe anymore, and at one point his tongue popped out.
And it's reported that George just used his walking cane to shove
Shove
the
it
tongue
back
back in
in.
his mouth. Yeah, George was a very unpleasant individual, and the whole execution of
Giles
was a
not
very,
cool.
very gruesome affair.
Now, the things that are associated with Giles is that, well, pockets of chilled air are appearing in heated rooms, books and pictures fall from their shelves, candles being melted even though they were never lit. However, there's an occurrence that is unique to the spirit, and as candles inexplicably melt, they consistently form into the shape of an S. Many take this as a sign that Giles is still calling out the sheriff who played such a prevalent role in his gruesome execution. Then, of course, there's the witch, because Salem. So she is said to reside in the top floor of the house. She's rarely seen, but one that made her very, very famous was happened in 1981. Now, at this point in time, Carlson Realty was one of the businesses that had just moved into the house, and they hosted a company-wide Christmas party. While so many festivities were going on, a coworker decided to take some Polaroid pictures to save as mementos of the occasion. And he snapped a quick picture of a coworker in front of some decorations at the party. But when the picture developed, the light-haired coworker was not in the photograph. Instead, it was a grainy image where a very pale woman with a head full of dark curly hair, complete opposite of the person being photographed, actually showed up. Now, once this image was released, many news channels began to cover the story, and in the following months, more stories came out as many people claimed to have seen the woman in or around the house. While no one has been able to identify this woman, many think that she's the spirit of one of the witches George executed during the Salem witch trials. Now, it's also interesting to consider that the majority of paranormal activity reported has been reported by men who have encountered something in the house. Men have reported that they have left the house with unexplainable scratches on their chest or have experienced an uncomfortable feeling of another person in the room watching them while they were inside of the house. While there's no explanation for this, many think that it's probably a spirit of one of the wrongly accused women during those trials who are trying to get their final revenge.
Yeah. I mean, it is also worth noting, of course, people associate witches with women, but there were...
Male witches are called witches.
Yeah, but
period.
There were also, numerous men were caught up and executed in the Salem witch trials.
Yeah.
So, Giles Corey was just one of several.
Yes.
So, yeah.
But he's most noted because of how he was killed.
Yes. And, his whole thing, he never agreed to trial. There was a whole stipulation that the accused had to basically verbally agree to go to trial.
Which basically was a death sentence because they were going to find you guilty.
And he just stopped talking.
Yeah,
Didn't say anything.
They were attempting to get a confession out of him, and the only words that he would say was more weight.
Yeah. That was when he was already being pressed. But before that, they had been trying to get him to agree to go to trial for several weeks. He just went mute, wouldn't say anything, because he was so upset about the whole ordeal, which justifiably so. He had before that loudly protested the fact that his wife was caught up in the trials.
Yep.
So, yeah, that was nasty bit of business, if you will.
A very dark history.
Yes. But that is why Salem has the reputation it does today.
One of my favorite cities, by the way.
But yes, so moving along, we will turn our attention elsewhere as we move to what is now Turner's Seafood. It's a New England seafood restaurant and a local institution in Salem. And while the cuisine and ambiance offered at Turner's are renowned, the restaurant's enduring appeal isn't only due to its fare or decor. The modern Turner's property is better known as Lyceum Hall, a historic landmark. In its day, Lyceum Hall was predominantly a center for lectures and presentations. It hosted a number of famous cultural, political, and academic figures. Furthering the mystique and the legendary status of what is now Turner's Seafood, even before the Lyceum Hall was on the property, the land once housed an apple orchard. Now, Bridget Bishop, one of the most notable figures in the Salem witch trials, owned the orchard. Bishop, of course, isn't noted in history for simply being an apple orchard owner. Her notoriety stems from her demise. She was the first woman executed for the charge of witchcraft in the 1692 trials. Apparently, her ghost haunts the building that came to reside on the land of her orchard. The most common accounts of Bridget Bishop painted a portrait of a vibrant woman who, in her life, was perhaps misunderstood. That's perhaps an understatement. Anyways, according to the centuries-long rumors associated with Bishop, the woman was supposedly a promiscuous, amoral, flamboyant barfly who was married 3 times.
No!
No. It's not, yeah. Going on, all traits looked down upon in puritanical Salem Village, especially for women. Per this logic, her flashy figure made her an easy target for the witchcraft accusations that would later end her life.
She was curvy, oh my.
Yeah. However, there are conflicting versions of Bishop as a real historical person rather than an exaggerated, outsized legend. The colorful characterization of Bridget Bishop as a woman who dressed loudly and owned a tavern is most likely a historical inaccuracy that over time has been passed along as fact. In later retellings of witch trial-era Salem, Bishop was repeatedly confused with Sarah Bishop, another woman accused of witchcraft and the wife of one of Bishop's stepchildren. The real Bridget Bishop was no less interesting or prone to controversy and attention, though, and she was, in fact, married 3 times, but for unfortunate reasons. Bridget Bishop was born Bridget Playfair between 1632 and 1635, somewhere in that time, but over back in England. While still in England, in 1660, she married Samuel Wasselby, her first husband. Shortly after getting married, the couple moved to the Massachusetts Bay Colony. After Wasselby's death in 1664, Bishop married again. In 1666, Bishop married a widower, Thomas Oliver. During her second marriage, she was a stepmother to Oliver's sons and mother to a daughter of their own. The pair fought often, however. Their fights were severe enough to land them in court on at least one occasion. Per a neighbor's testimony, Mary Ropes, aged about 50 years, deposed that she had several times been called to her neighbor Thomas Oliver's by himself, but mostly by his wife, to hear their complaints about one another, and they both acknowledged that they had been fighting together. Further, she saw Goodwife Oliver's face at one time bloody and at other times black and blue, and the said Oliver complained that his wife had given him several blows as well. As a result, Bishop and Oliver were fined. In 1678, Bishop was brought to court again for using foul language toward her then-husband. Unbelievably, she was then ordered to stand with her husband in the public market. For an hour they stood, gags in their mouths, with paper labels explaining their offense attached to both of their foreheads. These repeated offenses and highly visible punishments obviously didn't help Bishop's image in the village.
Can we bring those back?
Now, for better or for worse, probably for better, a year later, Oliver dies, and Bishop inherits his estate. She received the house, 10 acres of land, 2 pigs, and the household's contents. Both Bishop's stepsons and daughter only received 20 shillings each, and you don't have to be a colonial currency expert to infer that such an amount is very low. As such, shortly after receiving the inheritance, she was suspected of bewitching Oliver to death. This initial accusation didn't go to trial, chiefly due to lack of supporting evidence, an ironic outcome given how the witch trials would operate later. But later in 1687, Bishop was accused of and arrested for stealing brass from a local mill. There are no records that dictate what happened in that trial, but suffice it to say, Bishop's reputation only worsened with time. She married a third time to a well-regarded woodcutter named Edward Bishop, earning the married name that she would soon be immortalized under. Around the Salem witch trials, the Bishops lived in what is now known as downtown Salem. There, at 43 Church Street, Bridget Bishop owned an apple orchard. Unknown to her at the time, this orchard would later play a significant part of her afterlife. During the witch trials, Bridget Bishop was the most accused victim of all. A number of outlandish stories about her circulated, that she conjured up demonic black-colored pigs and a flying monkey to torture a neighbor. She bewitched humans and animals alike. She even killed a few people.
So is this where the Wicked Witch of the West and her flying monkeys come from?
Kind of sounds like the inspiration. Now, perhaps due to her perceived character and criminal history, an abundance of witnesses poured out to testify against her. Worsening her situation, Bishop's own testimony was shaky and inconsistent. Despite her professions of innocence, no one believed her. Ultimately, she was sentenced to death by hanging for bewitching 5 young girls. Her death was just the start of a wave of witch trials and executions that led to the deaths of 13 more women and 6 men. As for Bridget's property, the second life of 43 Church Street was the Lyceum Hall. Now, Lyceum Hall was a Victorian era magnet for intellectual heavyweights. Luminaries such as Henry David Thoreau, Frederick Douglass, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Clara Barton, and Alexander Graham Bell all appeared at the Lyceum. Most remarkably, on February 12th of 1877, the Lyceum was where Graham Bell conducted the first ever demonstration of the telephone. The Lyceum's sturdy brick building dates back to 1831, when the Salem Lyceum Society purchased the land. Following the trends of the 1800s, Lyceum Hall was intended to be a space for education and entertainment. The Lyceum offered literary readings, discussions, and lectures to both the Society's members and the general public. Popular subjects of the lectures were politics and government, arts, science, literature, and philosophy. Over the course of 6 decades, the Lyceum hosted over 1,000 lectures. Curiously enough, there are no known stories from this era of visitors observing any paranormal activity at the hall, which, why this is the case is, appropriately enough, up for discussion. The third and latest life of 43 Church Street belongs to the world of dining. After the Lyceum's time ended, the building underwent renovations. This remodeling has allowed for the space to act as a restaurant or bar. Since 1989, the former Lyceum Hall has served as a place for dishes and drinks. This long-standing tradition continues to the present day with the building's current occupant, Turner Seafood. Oddly, since becoming a restaurant, Bridget Bishop has seemingly made it a point to return to her former orchard. Ever since 1989, several visitors have reported witnessing a woman in a long white gown drifting throughout the building. The woman has been seen eerily floating above the Lyceum's main staircase. She's appeared in brief glimpses in the reflections of the building's windows and mirrors. As another reminder of Bishop's legacy, the fresh, crisp aroma of apples can sometimes be noticed in the building, despite the building not having had been an orchard for centuries. Though Turner's sometimes has a few apple-centric items on their seasonally rotating menu, the scent of apples weighs in the air regardless of the menu's contents. Beyond the spectral lady and the smell of apples, doors close and open on their own. Lights flicker on and off. Boxes were once thrown down the stairs from an unseen specter, witnessed by a shaken contractor who was only there to repair the sprinkler system, but endured much more than they had signed up for. During a paranormal investigation of the building, the team was trying to make contact with a resident spirit, but instead of hearing a voice, they received a response from an antiquated cash register. The cash register printed a receipt time-stamped, "Good morning." Time-stamped, "Good morning." Yet the register hadn't been programmed to print the phrase. the manager was unable to provide an explanation. While the experiences at Turner's can be unsettling, they generally have a sense of mischief or attention-seeking. And while her long absence from the property can't be definitively explained, perhaps Bridget was stirred up by some aspect of the restaurant renovation, or perhaps she was just always there and saw a unique opportunity to try and communicate that wasn't there before. In any case, if you ever find yourself seeking out seafood at Turner's, perhaps you could spare a brief moment to give Bridget a quick hello.
We don't drink eggnog.
Just dip my tail in it.
So very confused as to why he cannot have eggnog.
It is
Like,
eggnog.
come over here.
It is eggnog season, by the way,
Yes.
and also gingerbread stout and gingerbread porter season.
Which is what Chris has. I have rum and eggnog.
Yep. So
This
good.
is Lee.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yes, the what was it? Homestead Creamery eggnog is back in some of the grocery stores.
It is.
Is
And
it
I saw
up here?
Yes, it's at Wegmans. I have not tried. Look for it here, but
We've had it in the past.
yeah, Wegmans has it right now, so it's coming if it's not here.
Yep.
You are so restless, sir.
You're so cute.
Let's see.
Yeah, it's lovely. You are cute as well.
You gotta come over here so people can see you, know?
She does not believe that everyone deserves to perceive her. She's not quite sure how to make this jump, though.
Come on, baby girl.
She knows she wants to jump
Yep.
over Vincent, but she's not 100% sure how.
She'll figure it out.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Patrick says that. I mean, it is a kind of good morning on the cash register. It's like thanks. Good morning to you too.
Yeah, it's polite.
Yeah, it's polite.
They could say something
else.
Oh, and Patrick has had pumpkin spiced eggnog.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Ah, and Roberta's here. Hi,
Hi,
Roberta.
Roberta.
Roberta says hi, Una. You're the star of the show. Come on over. Get on camera. Come on.
Alright, so we're gonna talk
Just
about
woke up.
Rockefellers. Yeah, she did just wake up.
She's just like, excuse me, I have to put my face on.
Come on, baby. Alright, so this is another food and drink establishment that is currently known as Rockefellers. It's located on the original site of Salem's first church. And of course, it's got a history that's steeped in murderous secrets. Here we go again. Now, the cornerstone of the Daniel Low building was placed on April 27th of 1826 by members of the First Salem Church. Salem's first church. And in a space that was beneath the cornerstone was deposited a silver plate bearing the names of past and current ministers of the congregation. Silver was to remain an important part of the building's history. From the beginning, the church used the second floor of the building for worship and rented out the ground floor to various commercial ventures to help pay for the building and its maintenance. Among the tenants was a crockery, glass and china shop owned by William Bowditch, a dry goods store owned by Edwin Ide, and a ladies' furnishing store owned by John P. Peabody. In the 1860s and 1870s, a National Exchange Bank was the tenant, adding the vault and the double-depth windows that feature it still today. In 1867, Daniel Low opened his jewelry business in a corner room, but soon took over the entire first floor. Lowe started the mail order business in 1892 after his company began manufacturing and selling silver souvenir witch spoon by advertising in many national publications. The response to that item prompted him to create one of the first mail order catalogs. Now, Lowe died in 1911 and was succeeded by his son Seth, who ran the business until he died in 1939, and then by Seth's widow Florence until the mid-1950s. Eventually, the space would be renovated to accommodate those looking for a bite to eat, and Rockefellers would be born. This casual dining gem has many tales to tell, including the horrors and antics of two spirits that roam its quarters, the Blue Lady and the black-suited minister. There are several attempts to explain who they are and why they remain. Version 1. An old sea captain fell in love with a young woman named Sarah. However, Sarah fell in love with another man, a young sailor she planned to run away with, while the captain was out at sea. Unfortunately for Sarah, the captain returned from the sea early and was so furious at what she had planned that he hit her with a giant plank of wood. They say she died in the alleyway next to the old church, and that the captain buried her body in the underground tunnels with the help of the church minister. The minister was so distraught at his actions that he committed suicide. I lost my spot. But some say he was actually murdered by the captain, who thought the minister would end up revealing what had happened to the police.
Leave no witnesses.
Dead men tell no tales.
Dead men tell no tales.
The man dressed like the minister, however, was severely depressed, and he hung himself on the restaurant grounds. To this day, his spirit craves solitude. Those who try to take a photo of this somber apparition have suffered severe camera malfunctions, and sometimes, well, it's beyond repair. Just a warning. Version 2. She is called the Blue Lady because of her early 20th century style blue dress. Some say she was strangled to death in the tunnels below by the sailor after learning she was pregnant with his child. Patrons and staff alike have heard a distant, blood-curdling scream of the Blue Lady. Others claim she died while trapped in an underground vault. In any case, she may be your best bet for a paranormal encounter at Rockefeller's. Many of the staff can share with you their own ghostly encounters with this spirit. She is such a fixture in the place that they even have given her her own drink on the menu. A tasty mix of rum, blue caraco, and pineapple juice. Cheers to the Blue Lady.
I think it's pronounced curacao.
Curacao it is. I'm sorry. I don't know why I said caraco.
It's okay. I say it in my head whenever I read it.
Yeah, it just kind of looks that way. Just like the whole Verena conversation we had earlier.
Alright.
That's a whole other thing. We digress.
Yes.
Inside joke.
Inside joke. But now we're going to go to a location that many of you are familiar with if you watched Hocus Pocus back in the 90s.
Yes.
You could have watched it yesterday, too, and still be familiar with it. She's
Yes.
just saying when the movie came out.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
What?
Wait, what? You've never seen the original Hocus Pocus?
Zoe keeps saying she's going to watch it with me, and then we don't watch it.
We can fix that.
That's fixable.
We can order some Indian and have a Hocus Pocus night.
Actually, that sounds wonderful. We should do that.
Sounds amazing.
We need to tell Marsha. We
Yes.
digress further.
Okay.
Yes.
Anyway,
As we tend to do.
we get distracted by good movies and food.
We actually have like 8 people watching us now.
Sweet.
Oh, hey, guys.
Some time.
Sorry about that.
Better up my game.
Let's be professional.
Yes. So, anyways, yes. So, time for this Hocus Pocus tie-in. Now, assuming you are familiar with the classic movie, and even if you're not, again, whatever, that's fine. Go watch it. You'll notice real quick. There is an asymmetrical, white-painted colonial house that achieved on-screen fame in Hocus Pocus, but it does have some very real spooky tales going on behind the scenes as well, with some very grim history to go alongside. Now, today it is called the Ropes Mansion, and that is Ropes, as in R-O-P-E-S, family name.
Mm-hmm. Which you mentioned Mary already.
Yep. It was a tight-knit community. But now, it is today owned by the Peabody Essex Museum, but it was built by Samuel Bernard in the later 1720s. Unfortunately, we know little about Samuel Bernard. He was a merchant who moved to Salem from Deerfield, Massachusetts, and he led a prosperous life in Salem Village, marrying and remarrying on 4 separate occasions, yet he didn't get the stink eye like poor Bridget.
That's because he's male.
I know. It was also about 30 years later.
Still.
There was
30 years doesn't mean anything when it comes to piety.
Salem had a pretty severe hangover once they realized what they did in the
Oh,
Salem
yeah.
trial. So,
Many people left them.
yeah. So, it changed. But, alright, we digress. Again, there is little more of note that we know of Mr. Bernard, but subsequent inhabitants left a much larger footprint on the historic record. Enter Judge Nathaniel Ropes in 1768. He purchased the house from the nephew of Samuel Bernard. Ropes was a wealthy, though unpopular, attorney and Harvard graduate who, despite his disrepute, led an impressive career. Ropes represented Salem in the colonial legislature, and later served on the governor's council. Ropes was even a judge for the inferior court of common pleas. By 1772, Ropes was appointed to the superior court of judiciary. No, it's not it. It's not judiciary. Judicature. Judicature. Is that it? Judicature?
Maybe.
Sounds better. We'll go with that. Judicature. In an impressive appointment as the superior court of judicature was the highest court of the colony. Yet Ropes was a loyalist. Dun dun dun. This had led for him to become quite an unpopular individual. Loyalists were not very welcome in the Massachusetts colony. And controversies related to taxation had Salem Village up in arms. And the judges were paid by the elected representatives of the general court, making them partial to colonial interests, which sounds like a good thing. Judges kind of on the side of the colonial interests. And for the judges to favor the interests of the colonists, however, was unacceptable to the British government, so there was a proposal floated that instead of being paid by the colonists, that the judges should be paid by the crown. The colonists were naturally infuriated that the crown would seek to further impose themselves upon colonial life, and demanded that the judges reject their royal salaries. Now, for his part, Ropes agreed to deny the salary from the crown, yet he still remained a loyalist. The colonists could not abide this, and they subsequently attacked the Ropes mansion in March of 1774. The mob of colonists threw mud, stone, and sticks at the windows, demanding that Ropes renounce his allegiance to the British crown. Ropes, however, never had the chance. He died the following day at the age of 47. Yeah, we will say historic records show that Ropes had been suffering from smallpox already, but the Ropes family felt that the mob helped to hasten Nathaniel's path to the grave. Truth probably falls somewhere in the middle. You never know. Now,
A bit stressful when they're throwing rocks and stones and sticks and mud at your house.
yeah. Now, over 60 years later, more tragedy does visit the Ropes mansion when Abigail Ropes met her tragic ending in 1839. Abigail was Nathaniel's daughter, and her dress caught fire one evening when she attempted to carry hot coals from one room to another. Apparently, she got too close to the fireplace and her petticoats ignited. Abigail lingered for 3 weeks before succumbing to her injuries, which sounds awful. After Abigail's passing, an entity known as Nabby, I don't know why they donned her Nabby, I never found that out, but Nabby,
has a horrible nickname if it was one.
Yeah. Nabby has allegedly haunted the Ropes mansion ever since. Reports of her apparition flourish throughout the history of the house, and many have spotted her in the upper windows of the mansion, looking out at the beautiful gardens which surround the house. The Ropes mansion history with fire doesn't end there. The interior was badly damaged during a blaze in 1891, and another fire damaged the mansion again in August of 2009. Most attribute the blazes to negligence or bad luck, but there are some who try to point the finger at Abigail Ropes, claiming that her spirit bears hostility to the home where she was so gruesomely burned. In addition to Nabby's apparition, visitors to the Ropes mansion claim that they can hear the sound of Abigail's agonized screams. Some say that Nathaniel Ropes haunts the house alongside her. Now, Rick and Georgette Stafford, former caretakers of the mansion, claim to have caught Nathaniel Ropes on film. The image was taken during an insurance appraisal, of all things, and reveals two hands of a man seated on a couch. It's a ghostly snap of an otherwise unseen specter. There are accounts that the mansion's garden is likewise haunted. Visitors claim to feel the icy touch of an unseen spirit, or hear the whispers of a disembodied voice. Again, most point to Abigail, but perhaps it is instead the garden's longtime keeper, Andy Bye. Bye was employed at the Ropes mansion in 1931 and oversaw the garden until 1994. His employment ended only upon his death. Having tended the garden for 63 years, it stands to reason that he may have had a strong desire to keep tabs on the landscape he cared for so well. What do you know? That's the end of that story. I will take care of cat mischief.
Dinner's on the table. because she can.
What are you doing?
Anyway, so we're going to move over to Mercy Tavern, formerly known as In a Pig's Eye. I personally like the other name.
Yeah, why would you rename it?
Anyway, so this is one of Salem's oldest taverns. After the witch trial menace ended, Salem shifted from being a Puritan community to one that catered to many of the vices of the merchants and seamen arriving on its shores. Salem was a port with numerous thriving wharves and was active in commerce, shipbuilding, and other trade-related ventures. The hustle and the bustle of the seaports laid the foundation for a booming economy in the city. Soon many establishments emerged, especially those geared towards the interest of the growing population of sailors in the area. What is now known as the Derby Street Historic District was once a mecca for prostitution, gambling, drinking, and other morally questionable deeds. Yeah, we can say that Salem did a 180. Now, across the way from the House of Seven Gables, a tavern known as In a Pig's Eye, now known as the Mercy Tavern, attended to all those needs of the sailors and captains of the passing ships, stopping in to the seaport for a night's rest, a quick drink. Well, seamen were known for seeking the company of women, especially prostitutes, and after many disorientating months at sea, working in the ships was dangerous, and not to mention the environment was dirty and cramped. Therefore, once they set their foot on land, the sailors would enjoy the no-strings-attached, on-demand intimacy that the ladies would offer. In 1762, the Derby Wharf, created by Alice Hackett Derby Sr., was rapidly becoming the busiest wharf in Salem. When Sr. passed away in 1799, he left his massive fortune to his son, Jr. Jr. was accustomed to the life of luxury, and he wanted to maintain it after his father's passing. He was a member of the Salem Maritime Society, whose main objective was to obtain curiosities from the Orient and other parts of the world. Derby then realized that by smuggling valuable items, he would be able to continue his lifestyle and fuel that inheritance a wee bit more. So he devised a plan. He would beautify the park that is now known as Salem Common Historic District, which mainly was a swamp at the time.
If you ever look up ulterior motives in like the encyclopedia or something, there will be a picture of this right next to it.
Yeah. So he decided he would fill in the marsh with dirt and create trails for people to stroll through. The beautification helped him hide the fact that he was digging tunnels around Salem, since he would then use the dirt from the digs to fill in the swampy commons. Derby also needed an enormous amount of brick to build the tunnels. To hide his massive brick purchase, he ordered construction materials for several brick houses to be built around the area. The houses built had fireplaces in the basement that would serve as entrances into the underground tunnels. These tunnels connected different parts of Salem to the wharf. With the tunnels now in place, the sailors could transport goods they had acquired or stolen to during their Oriental voyages, and the tunnels became passageways for smuggling rare and valuable items like gold, priceless artifacts, crown jewels, even objects that were believed to possess magical properties. When the Mercy Tavern was busy as a brothel, its reputation was one of disgust. Not only were the affairs were happening inside, but many young men who would visit the brothel never came out again, at least not out the front door. Sea captains knew of the tunnels and used them to their advantage. They would order their deckhands to go into the brothel through the tunnels, kidnap healthy men that they encountered inside, and then they would be forced into service aboard the ships. New crew members were always in demand, and sailors of the time were often malnourished, diseased, and mistreated. Seen as disposable and easily replaced, when sailors became so sickly that they perished, or, of course, they were cast out to sea, left to drift on an endless ocean. Their captains and crewmates to the next healthy and sometimes unwilling young man. The seamen took advantage of the underground tunnels and used them to transport shanghaied men to the wharf. Now, the tavern is said to, of course, be plenty haunted by the sailors' spirits once visited their establishment. Sightings of the young sailors have been reported in the restaurant's bar area. The tavern staff also report hearing disembodied voices when the building itself is empty of all customers. With its close proximity to the seashore, Mercy Tavern is a hotspot for paranormal activity, as the waterfront is also said to be one of the most haunted spaces in Salem. Visitors and residents alike have witnessed ghostly pirates emerge from the water, walk onto the shore, and vanish soon afterwards. Employees of the tavern hear voices from the tunnels and report shouting and arguing from beneath the floorboards. Strange, since most of the tunnels have been blocked off, if not filled in, for safety purposes. Even stranger, in 2010, a retired professor and his associate ventured out into one of these tunnels, finding an antique bank, a grocery store, murals, elevators, and empty shafts where the people used to live. The voices of the Mercy Street Tavern staff heard likely belong to the spirits of the people that once lived in those underground areas. And that's going to bring us to our last stop for the evening.
Patrick said, as if you didn't need another reason to avoid brothels.
Shanghai, yeah.
Suddenly, minding your own business or minding one of the local ladies, all of a sudden you wake up on a ship out at sea with little say in what you're going to do.
And you get whipped for protesting.
Work or swim. Those were the days. Don't mind me. Oh, yeah, so one last stop for this evening. So, now, perhaps after all of this, you may be itching for a visit to Salem. Maybe not. I don't know.
When do we leave?
Okay, when do we leave? Yes.
I love Salem. When do we leave?
I've only got to do the 1 day trip there. So, I want to get back to Salem. Now, if you're going to go, and you're watching this show, there's a good chance that you'd be interested in a haunted location to go ahead and take up temporary residence, if you will. You are in luck, because there is the Hawthorne Hotel. Maybe your best bet for a spirited stay. It's reported that, in particular, rooms 325 and 612 play host to the majority of the world's hotel's otherworldly activity. That said, some other things have happened as well. Now, named after Nathaniel Hawthorne, author of The House of the Seven Gables, the house was built in 1925 in an attempt to attract tourists to Salem. It succeeded in its goal, bringing many...
Seven Gables is what you're referencing Nathaniel Hawthorne for? I would have gone Scarlet Letter, but
yeah, it's because the House of the Seven Gables is right across the street from it.
Okay,
yes.
Cool.
He's much better known for Scarlet.
Yes, that's an interesting one.
But the House of the Seven Gables is in Salem, right across the street from the
You're
hotel.
correct. Okay, cool.
So, yes. Now, it has brought many famous people to its doors, including Johnny Cash, Liza Minnelli, Bette Davis, former President George Bush, Colin Powell, Walter Cronkite, and the cast from the 70s sitcom Bewitched, which also featured the hotel in one of its episodes. Now, regarding Bewitched, some Salem locals were incredibly unhappy about a witchcraft comedy show being filmed in their city, which, in their eyes at least, was still trying to recover from the dark stain of the Salem witch trials nearly 300 years prior. I don't know about that.
I don't know. It was the 50s. Like, it was a weird time.
Yeah,
60s?
70s.
Wow, I'm off. Guys, I know my television history. Yeah. I promise.
At this point in time, if they weren't embracing this the witch trial thing in the 70s, they certainly are today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, coincidentally, the Hawthorne Hotel stands close to Turner's Seafood, mentioned earlier in this episode, and is also said to occasionally play host to the spirit of Bridget Bishop, whose apple orchard was once on the property. The hotel is also reportedly visited by the spirits of sea captains and sailors. Other ghostly activity includes bathroom lights and faucets turning on by themselves, random icy cold spots, and light fixtures moving on their own. People will also hear crying children when none are around, and will see mysterious mists with no logical explanation. Creepier still, guests have repeatedly reported feeling cold, disembodied hands touching them in the night. Now, I found this last bit here on TripAdvisor. There was a guest who stayed in room 610. Now, I mentioned 612 as one of the most notorious ones, but they stayed in 610 roughly 10 years ago. And they reported the following in a TripAdvisor review, which, mind you, they gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And said it was very comfortable, lovely stay. However...
But the ghost.
Minus 1 star for the ghost.
In this particular case, we did experience something odd immediately after turning off the lights around 11 p.m. There was a very loud sound in the room which made us both sit straight up in bed. We thought someone had opened the door, but there was no one there. The door was closed and no one was in the hallway. We looked around the room to see if something had fallen, but nothing had. The only way we could recreate the sound was swinging the metal safety lock open really hard against the door frame. You know, those ones that they use instead of the chain locks now? If you go ahead and flip it as hard as you can and ting it off the door frame, that's basically what they heard. So, goes on to say, it kind of freaked me out, but I didn't feel threatened. I guess they just wanted to get our attention? End of quote. Now, the hotel management did reply to this report by neither confirming nor denying that paranormal activity takes place in the building. They took the middle path of saying that if there are spirits present, they cannot be summoned on demand. So, in the management's own words, if you come looking for a paranormal experience...
They're not on the payroll.
Not on the payroll. They can't guarantee it. Don't go asking for your money back if you don't have a paranormal experience. But aside from that, sounds like...
Or if you do.
Yeah, or if you do for that matter, and you did not want one. But if you're listening to the show, I suspect that
you want one.
You're looking for one. They just can't guarantee it. And it sounds like a perfectly lovely place to stay anyways, because, yeah.
I'm all for that.
Yeah. But that is the last one for this evening.
So next show will be Haunted New Hampshire. And that will be in 2 weeks.
Yep, 2 weeks. Scarlet Letter and his ancestor... Oh! Nathaniel Hawthorne's... His ancestor was a judge at the witch trials.
Yes, I knew that.
Yep. He likened a tattered jacket and its holes to the glow of a jack-o'-lantern, if memory serves. You would know, I honestly don't know.
I'd have to look back. It's been a while since I've been up there.
And Patrick, he did go on that trip up to Salem not that long ago.
Yeah.
He got his picture taken in by the grave of Nathaniel Hawthorne's father. And Nathaniel Hawthorne himself is buried in the same cemetery as Washington Irving in Tarrytown, Sleepy Hollow, New York.
Another place we need to go. I will say I have been in the House of Seven Gables a couple of times, and every time I've been in there, something has followed me around.
I did get to go there with you, though,
Yes,
one time.
you did.
Yes. So
So,
it was an interesting tour.
I have an extra story.
And Patrick went to Salem in October of last year.
Dang.
Time means nothing. It's only been 13 months.
Yeah. So what's your extra story?
Oh, yeah, extra story. So I got a friend who now lives in Charleston, but used to work at a bar up in Salem. And it was reportedly across the street from where where Giles got pressed.
Yep.
And she didn't have any, actual experiences other than the fact that anytime that she went into the basement, she would get intensely uncomfortable. And so she would not go to the basement by herself. So.
That would make sense, especially if it was one of those basements connected to the tunnels.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she was sensing somebody who was Shanghai.
Perhaps.
Yeah. Now, if you think that you know Salem and you think we might have left something off, well, you're right. This was not intended to be an all-inclusive episode. There's a very good chance that there may be... Well, we'll see what we do with it.
Yeah.
Maybe a Haunted Salem Part 2, or...
Mixed into Haunted Massachusetts.
Haunted Massachusetts, or if it fits a specific theme, like a Haunted Hotels or something like that, it might show up in there. this will not be the last you hear of Salem on one of our shows. So, but yes,
Pardon? Sorry.
It's we're still recovering.
And I've been up since 5:30.
Yeah.
Somehow it is the Monday after Halloween.
Yes.
And
Yep.
it feels
And
like
daylight
it's been like
savings.
weeks.
Yep.
Yeah.
This was it was a long, busy week, even though Halloween is
Is it?
in the rearview mirror. But Haunted New Hampshire, 2 weeks from today. And then I think we are taking it's a 3-week break.
Yes, because of Key West, we are not doing one the Monday after the trip because we'll still be in Key West and internet there is not the greatest.
We might film a very brief, short, and then upload that, but we won't be trying to go live because we can't guarantee that we're going to have a good enough connection to do so.
Yeah. But then we'll be doing some Victorian Christmas stories again.
As our new tradition for December is.
Yep, and then Haunted Christmases Part 2 the day after Christmas.
Yep. Yes.
So.
But yeah, last year we did basically the same thing. We did an evening with some Victorian Christmas stories and a couple of just haunted Christmas type stories, like real life hauntings around Christmas. So we'll have more of both of those for you in December.
Yep.
And
then we'll get to the new year and I'll probably pick another state and we'll just keep working our way through some states.
Yeah.
Because I've been promising to do that, so I'm going to keep that New Year's resolution.
Yeah. But yeah, it's not we have no lack of things to talk about. So yeah, lots of shows coming up and lots of shows, and also we'll have I don't know, we'll see. Maybe in a couple of weeks we'll have some announcements about some special events coming up.
Yep. Still playing with calendars.
So are still playing with calendars. I know that we're probably going to be looking at doing some public readings at various locations. We will not make any promises or name names yet, so that until we get those pinned down. But
gotta get some meetings taken care of first.
Yep. But once we get those pinned down, we'll be posting them on our events calendar, and good things in the future.
Yep.
And tours aren't going to stop. This month we got tours Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays. We're doing that right through Thanksgiving weekend. We are taking a weekend off. It'll be the first off weekend in quite a long time.
Yes.
When we're in Key West. And then when we come back, we will have events on
Friday and Saturday.
Fridays and Saturdays, except for around the holidays. I think Christmas and New Year's we're throwing things off a little bit because of where the holidays fall.
Yeah, so we'll be doing things on those Thursdays beforehand.
I think Thursdays and Fridays, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yep. But yeah, so we got stuff coming up. We're can't stop, won't stop type deal.
Yep. And we will see you all in 2 weeks for Haunted New Hampshire. So
Yep.
you have a good night, y'all.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
Bye.
Come to Comic-Con.
Yes, come to Comic-Con, and our next show is going to be still before that? No, after that.
After that.
Yes. So just shy a week from this coming Saturday. So almost 2 weeks, not quite 2 weeks.
Oh my god.
Come see us at Comic-Con. Good night, everybody.